Hey guys, thanks for listening. This is the first interview that we're doing for Generation Young Leaders. Today we have Mark Dollar. And Mark is a very successful musician. He plays guitar. He's played with Pink, Lindsay Lohan, Britney, Christina Aguilera, Lil Wayne, Akon, you name it. He also owns his own company. It's called ADSR Communications, where he develops young talent, and you'll hear him talk about that. And also, he'll talk a little bit about School of Rock. He is a teacher there, and anyway, it's so good to have him. I do have to apologize about the quality of the recording. He's on speakerphone on my cell phone, and so it just happened to be the way that we had to do it. But future interviews will be a little bit more clear. We'll probably do videos, but for this one, it'll do. So let's jump right in. This is Mark Dollar interviewing with Generation Young Leaders. All right, so Mark Dollar, thank you very much for joining us. This is Generation Young Leaders. This is actually our first interview, and I'm just really honored to be able to chat with my good friend, a buddy that I've gotten to know very well over the last year or so, and just a fellow musician who kills it every single day. So wanted to get some insights for young leaders from Mark. So Mark, thank you very much for joining us.
Oh, the pleasure is all mine, Dwayne. Thank you for having me.
All right, so kind of first of all, just tell us, what's your, what position are you in right now? What, are you a leader right now? Are you, do you have a company? What are you up to right now?
All right. Well, I am a teacher at School of Rock Montclair. I see over, I'd say about 148 students a week. And we pretty much, the thing with School of Rock is giving kids a chance to learn music in a group setting and where they can formulate their own bands, understand how, to be a musician in today's world, which is not an easy task. It's definitely not something that, you can just walk into and, just say, hey, I'm a musician. There's a lot of, ropes that you have to learn, and, there's a lot of hardships that follow that too, but not necessarily with School of Rock. We give the kids a chance to think for themselves, understand the music that they're playing, and hopefully they take that with them when they get older and when they become professionals and replace us.
That's awesome.
I think that's really cool. Also, I have a company called ADSR Communications, which is basically a music development label, and I oversee about 15 artists all over the world, actually, at this point. A lot of the artists come to me for production needs, songwriting needs, technical needs, all the studio aspects, and all the label aspects as well.
Wow. Now you're a young guy. You're a young guy. How old are you, if you don't mind?
I'm 25 years old, right?
And already you're doing all this amazing stuff. So how did you? Let's talk about, since you jumped on it first. Let's talk about the School of Rock. How did you get introduced to that? How did that start?
Well, oddly enough, I was on tour with Cool and Gangs one year, and we were on our way back home, and we played one last tour date in southern New Jersey, and it was called Balloon Fest, and one of the bands that opened up for us was School of Rock Hackensack. And at first, we're like, who are these kids? We didn't know who they were, this, that, and the because I have, clients and studio stuff.
Okay.
But I have to say that is probably one of the best decisions I've ever made in my life. And it inspires me every single day to, see every kid that I see on a daily basis just love what they do, and they come in hungry, they come in ready to play. It's just an amazing feeling. It gives me more to feel good about and to create good music about.
Right. So you almost didn't jump on that opportunity. What pushed you to say, you know what, I'm going to actually take the initiative to go and talk to those guys? What was that moment that was like, that kind of started this whole entire snowball into what you're doing now?
Well, I think that was just a big, push from God saying, hey, you know what, just do that for a minute, like, even if it's for a short while, just go ahead and do that. And, I listen to God, and, He gives me guidance that I can't even see myself. Sometimes I find myself in the wrong, but the more I listen to God, the more I'm able to, really see what He has for me. And this is definitely something that I think God wanted me to be a part of. Every day that I come into the schools, it really just turns even my upside down days, around, and it always brings a smile to my face. And I think this is what I needed at this time, this particular point in my life right now.
So if you had some advice for, let's say, some of your young kids who are in there, and they said they want to be in a position like you where, you've got, the business, you've been really successful, which we'll really go into in a bit, but what kind of advice would you say to some of your kids if they came up and said, man, I really want to be in a position when I'm 25 where I can teach others, or I can, lead other people? Are there a few, words of wisdom that you would throw out to them?
Yeah, I'm going to say the same thing that my uncle said to me when I asked those same questions. My uncle said to me, it's not how long it takes, it's how bad you want it. And that kind of stuck with me, when I was really young. Because then I took that same thing and I applied it to everything in my life. I applied that to playing guitar, after having that same conversation with my
That's awesome. So let's kind of go into this studio that you bought at or started at 22, and then we'll get into your business that, or your production and the development that you're doing for other artists. So 22 years old. What made you do that? How did that start? How I mean, you're a young guy.
Well, okay, the backstory, just a little bit of a backstory for me is, I have a lot of family members that have been in the industry, since I was born, working with Stevie Wonder, Al Green, all your R&B greats, songwriters, musicians, world-class musicians at that, producers, label owners, things of that nature, people of that nature. I've always had people like that around me, to help me with my music career.
So real quick, you had mentors? So you had a bunch of mentors that were helping you all along the way, like pushing you and saying, kind of advising you through each step? So you had mentors throughout the whole entire process?
Yes, I did. My stepdad was Stevie Wonder's first drummer. He also played with Al Green, a lot of talented gospel and R&B musicians and singers. My uncle was Ray Charles' music director before he passed away. I've had uncles who worked on Alicia Keys' first album, songs in A minor, which went 10 times platinum. I have people that run the urban side over at Capitol Records. Some of my good family is the R&B group known as Cool in the Gang, who have sold 22 million albums across the world. And all these guys just have a ton of information and a ton of knowledge that I just wanted to eat up when I was really young, and I did,
Well, Mark, real quick, what give us a few of those, I don't know, morsels, kind of like what your uncle gave to you. Were there other, because I mean, here's the thing, if you think about maybe other family members or other people, other young leaders who might have someone in their family who's in the same position, or several people in their family, but yet they don't do anything with it, but yet you've taken it and really done amazing things. You've really become successful. And that's what we would really like to kind of know about and learn about, like how, because some people could say, oh, okay, well, he just succeeded, of course, because he had that. That's it. Well, no, there was something unique about you. So first, let's talk about that. What do you think was the difference? What makes you stand out from your peers, or let's say other siblings or cousins or whatnot who haven't done as much? What made you stand out from them?
Well, here's the deal. Yes, I do have, this resource of a family. However, that didn't necessarily play into, I didn't just say, hey, my family, can you give me something that I can do? And they said, okay, I'm going to make some calls. No, they wanted to see something out of me before I even made those steps.
Wow, so how did that make you feel? What did you...
Any other musician that was on the road, to me specifically.
Wow.
You know?
And
so I definitely did not have, you know, an easy, you know, upbringing in the sense that, yeah, I have these resources, but they made it just as hard for me as it could have been easy, I guess.
And I guess that made you stronger. That made you fight for it more. That made you want it more, do you think?
Yeah, definitely. You know, seeing what they do on a daily basis, you know, from my uncle engineering some of the greatest records of my time, and, you know, my uncle doing their thing every single night, that's something that I just wanted and I felt so proud of. You know, I wanted to be able to, you know, I wanted to be able to, you know, meet them on those same stages and be able to play right along with them and feel, you know, that same sense of pride that I had from my family, watching them do their thing, watching them work with these artists, and watching them develop and make these great songs.
Right.
You know, I just wanted that so bad that, you know, I couldn't help it, you know.
Well, Mark, let me ask you one thing. So what did you do? This is what some people want to know, and probably some of your School of Rock kids are saying the same thing. What are you doing on, or what did you do on a day-to-day basis to be able, what were the actual tangible things that you were doing on a day-to-day basis to get to that level? Were you, I've heard you say, I spent hours just, you know, playing riffs and just learning, you know, the theory part of music. What were you doing on a day-to-day basis as they were giving you all these challenges and you had all these opportunities, you saw it? What was it? What were you doing daily?
Well, I did a lot of research. I picked a lot of brains. I've talked to a lot of people that influenced me, and I took all that information and I just applied it to my life, not just to, you know, that one specific part of, you know, of what I do, but just in my life in general.
Can you give us an example?
Say it again.
Can you give us an example?
Okay, so, let's see. Alright, the first tour, the major tour I've ever done, which was playing with Christina Aguilera, I did 5 days across the country, with her to finish out her strip tour. And, pretty much what I had to do was learn, a 2-hour set within 2 days. So what did I do? I ran to my nearest CD store. I got every CD I could from Christina Aguilera. I wrote out all the songs into charts. So basically all I had to do was read these charts and memorize them, so that would help me memorize the songs. They sent me all the other music that I needed, like for instance the transitions and the parts and things of that nature, and I just studied and studied and studied and studied. I mean, I think I was up for like 2.5 days, like figuring out all this stuff before I had to, you know, jump on a plane and do my first show that evening, you know. So that required me to do something that I don't think a lot of people would have been able to do in that small amount of time, to sit here and say, okay, I'm going to learn 30 songs, and I'm going to, you know, learn these songs to the T, like, understand what these songs are about, understand how these songs were made, understand, you know, the sounds from these songs, and really take it and make it into my own, and be able to satisfy every single evening that I had to play for it, which was a great experience.
Wow. So what other artists have you played with?
Okay, I, again, have played with Cool and Gang. I've done 2 tours with Christina Aguilera. I've, Back to Basics tour and the strip tour. I also did a tour in South Africa with Akon. He was, doing, his first album, which was this
lot, man. You've done a lot of cool stuff.
I've been around the block.
Yeah. All right, so now let's get back to, because we're talking about leadership, and I'd love, trust me, I'd love to go into how did you break into the business, how can we, get young people to, break into the business, what do you have advice as far as, being a musician and all that kind of stuff, but we want to really focus this on leaders and getting an example of how you have been a leader. So not only did you start your own studio in age 22, what were you doing in that studio?
Well, pretty much, I took the whole, I got the chance when I was really young to see my uncle do essentially the same thing, which was being able to finish a whole album, start a whole album and finish it, and see it, from its process all the way to the end. Basically, I take artists. And sometimes when you're dealing with artists in general, it's not easy, because, they all have their vibes and they need their specific it thing, whatever that is, in order to get them to sing really well, in order to get them to play as well as possible, whatever the case is. It's my job to get all of that out of them. I got to get the most of their emotions onto what is known as an MP3 or a CD. I have to, make sure that my listeners or their listeners in general are able to feel every single word that is being sung or spoken or rapped, whatever the case is. And that requires, a major process. With my company in general, I have about 10 employees and 5 interns who work for me on a daily basis and tracking specific parts, from artists. So, I'll, have some of my favorite, interns and engineers come in. I have this kid named Dan. He's 19 years old. Dropped out of school, went to IAR for some classes, and just needed, some guidance as far as how to, go farther, with his music. So I have him in there working with the artist, kind of feeling himself out, taking charge, taking command of situations to get those artists to, confide in him for those, few hours that he spends with them. And, he's able to, learn from what I'm showing him to say, okay, this artist is feeling this way today. All right, well, I'm going to do this in order to counteract what that artist is, giving me so I can get this from this artist. And, even down, going further down the line from the recording and the songwriting to the mastering and the mixing and, developing that artist into what we know and what we see in front of us today.
So let me ask you real quick. So the guy, the 19-year-old, what's his name?
His name is Dan.
All right, so Dan, if he comes to you and he's like, hey, man, can we go out to lunch and hang out? And he's like, man, I really want to, obviously you already are a mentor to him. What kind of guidance, he's out of school, he's, trying to emulate you in some way. What kind of guidance would you, over lunch, just casual talking, what kind of words would you say to him?
We've had some great conversations before. We've talked about, what's going on in the average, 22-year-old head. And, 19 to 22, that whole kind of flare. And, basically what I tell him every single day is to make sure, he's doing everything he can to move forward. situations, and I told them specifically that life comes by how you perceive it, which means, for me, if I can't see myself grabbing whatever it is I want, then, there's something that is in the way there's something that's in the way, and I need to find that thing and fix it, or either understand it and work with it. Because what we want as human beings and what we want as people in general is right in front of us. It's never left, What we want is right in front of us. This is what my life has been about. I'm a living testimony to that. It's always been right in front of us. We pull ourselves away from what we want, not necessarily it pulling itself away from us. It's the other way around. So we have to be diligent in order to understand life and love, and being able to, with love, see what it is that we want, and not only just for us, but for others. If we include others on our missions and our goals, then then our lives will meet us halfway. I think God shows us, these little things that just keep us going on, that'll help us move forward. If He sees us, out here every single day, helping someone get to where they need to go, then we can be able to see the benefits of our lives through that work. This is what a lot of people don't see nowadays. I honestly think, it's hard for even me to relate to people in my own age group, because they're lost. They don't necessarily know how to find what they want and grab it. Not just find it, but grab it,
So how do you think others, let's say either in your position or let's say companies, I mean, obviously you're not in a corporation, you've branched out doing your own thing, but how would you suggest either record labels or other corporations, how could they kind of reach out to that lost generation or the young kids and kind of get them prepared, or snap them out of it and bring them back to prepare them, I guess, for the kind of future you're having?
Well, I believe that if we take a humane perspective, and not necessarily look at, our profit margins and, how much money we ourselves are making. I take influence from, for instance, the CEO of Whole Foods, who a few years ago dropped his salary down to $1 a year, in order to help out his employees and make sure that they stay, with enough money to take care of their families and do their things, just as adequately as he may be able to. And I look at things like that he's done, and I say, well, if every corporation at least had one aspect where they're truly wholeheartedly giving to our communities, not just, creating products that may even, help or hurt our communities. But if we have those corporations that are saying, what, we're going to go into this community, we're going to help them out, we're going to give them this sort of money to make sure they have enough books in school, to make sure they're eating right, and, things of this nature, I think the world would be a better place.
So social responsibility, step it up.
Yes,
Okay.
definitely.
Yeah, that's kind of an example. It seems like you're already an example for a lot of young people. You're already doing amazing things. I know that you've talked about kind of inspiration, but are there any other people right now, or any other leaders or people that you would kind of suggest, hey, why don't you check this person out? They're really, doing well in their life. Anybody that you recommend?
Well, let's see. I have a couple of people I'd like to talk about that I really look up to. I look up to, for instance, the people over at Visionary Church. There's a pastor there by the name of Tom Chong, who gives me a lot of inspiration on every Sunday that I go and I play, and he gives me an inspiration to really live and to understand my life in such a way that I've never understood it before.
Is there something in particular that he...
his words,
okay.
That is sent to him from God just gives me something that I can say, you know what, I can really go into this week and really take it by storm. I like, I really pay attention to my bosses over at School of Rock. His name is Matt Sandowski. He definitely is a really smart man. He's a very smart man that we can talk about a lot of similar experiences at my age and at his age. He's only he's 30 years old at this time, but he has his own School of Rock, and he's changed many lives because of it. Just by saying, you know what, I want to do something really cool for kids.
So he's still kind of young himself, right?
Yeah.
So so it's kind of like passing it along, even young people, young leaders can pass it on to other young leaders, can pass it on to young leaders. So, wow, okay. Who else?
Yeah. He's a really cool dude. I think, it's been a real blessing to meet him and talk to him in regards to, life and business in general. I get a lot of business, aspects. I learn a lot about business from him and, talking to people and, just being able to really communicate what your mission is. I get a lot of influence from him in that regard. I have a
because Mark, I've read and I've kind of heard that you were somewhat of a, I don't know, not a problem child or anything like that, but there could have been another road. You could have chosen a different road, but what was that breakthrough? What was that deciding factor that made you go, obviously, to a very successful route?
Growing up, seeing my family struggle was probably the hardest thing for me. I had an interesting childhood, going through a lot with my biological dad. My mom has been like the most influential person in my life, thus far. Seeing how she loved and how she was willing to, to be my rock at times where I couldn't even be myself, it just had me saying to myself how much I wanted to be able to support my mom one day. And, from my youth, my mom, helped me, stay alive, we helped each other stay alive, running, away from my dad, who was, an alcoholic, and, literally causing, problems and terrorizing my mom and myself, and seeing my mom cry on a daily basis is, finding, having, to find, food for the both of us, and for my sister, and for everyone that she's helped, it's been like just an inspiration that has helped me say, you know what, I need to do something bigger here. Right. Another thing for me was seeing the area that I lived in, seeing how people, just, were completely hopeless, at, this time I was living in Newark, New Jersey, and, a lot of people sit here and say, well, Newark is just a completely violent place, no one has any sense, whatever the case is. That is absolutely not true. Newark is a very hopeful place, but in a sense still hopeless, because no one wants to help these people move on with their lives. Seeing people having to struggle, having to rob people. I've seen people get killed in front of my eyes. How many times I've got robbed at gunpoint. Seeing my friends go to jail. Seeing my friends die. Most of the girls that I, have gone to school with from those areas are pregnant, dead, or, like, doing things that they don't want to do for, for a few dollars. That's not any way that people should live, and then,
So how did you
these areas, I come to areas where people don't necessarily get to see the struggle that people, have to go through over there, and it hurts me. It really hurts me to my soul, So that's something that I just needed to do for myself, to see a kid go through something because he doesn't have a choice, and no one cares that, he doesn't have a choice. No one cares that this kid doesn't
And how do you feel like you're the one responsible for that? I mean, what makes it like, because that's kind of what leaders do. It's like, you know, it's almost like nobody else is going to do it. I have to do it. I have to do something.
Well, you know, pretty much you just said it yourself. I mean, like, in the ways of, you know, I mean, I know a lot of people that talk about it, you know, talk about doing this and talk about doing that, and, you know, talk about, you know, the injustices that happen in the world. However, they're just falling in the same rabbit hole that, you know, most people would love them to fall into. And that's where they get caught up in their own. I believe, again, you know, it's the clarity to see how close, you know, your goal and how close your goals are to you, and being able to just grab it. If, you know, you know, tell my kids all the time, you know, whatever you want is right in front of you. The scariest thing the scariest thing about it is grabbing it. You know, you're going to find a lot of, you know, pain and hurt and things that are going to try to pull you away from grabbing that one thing that you've always wanted. You know, but, you know, again, having God on your side and, you know, being diligent and being willing, I call it being crazy enough to just go and grab and do whatever you gotta do, jump for it, dive for it, jump off a cliff for it, not being literal, but, you know, doing whatever it is you have to do and being willing to do it is, I think, the most important thing that a leader should attain. You know, and I think people see that. People see when, you know, there's someone, you know, that is like that person, you know, that one dude, you know, that's just like, okay, you know, I don't even think he even knows what he's doing himself, but he's on to something really big, and I believe he's going to learn some great lessons that can even help me. And that's, I think, what happened in, you know, the Bible days, and where people didn't even necessarily know what Jesus was talking about at first. You know, they were just like, okay, who's this dude, you know, talking about he can turn water into wine and this, that, and the other, and, you know, they didn't know the capacity to which, you know, their lives would his own abilities, you know. And I think when it comes down to it, he was just as ordinary as us, but extraordinary enough to go beyond the distance. And I think that's what makes a leader, you know. You know, there's a lot of modern day Jesuses that live within our day, you know. You know, people consider, you know, Barack Obama, you know, to be our new day Jesus, and where he's going for it. He's trying to change something. He's trying to change an element to everyone's lives that may be stale, and trying to show people that, you know, through diligence we can stay, you know, we can be happy within our lives. Today is Martin Luther King's birthday, you know, technically.
Right.
And where, you know, a lot of people don't even, you know, remember this day, you know, how many people I've talked to today is just like, oh, it's Martin Luther King's birthday, I didn't know that. If it wasn't for that man, I wouldn't even be able to talk to you on the phone right now.
Yeah. No, you're exactly right.
And that's something that we have to be able to see, you know?
Yeah. No, it's because of leaders, and it's because of people who have, you know, stood out, who have grabbed something that's right in front of them, like you said, and taken their passion to influence others. And in a way, you're doing the exact same type of thing. You know, you're moving people, whether you know it or not, and changing lives. And that is pretty remarkable, you know, at such a young age to be able to do that. So I personally just want to commend you for all the things that you've done, and it's really unbelievable. It seems that you take that a leader is somewhat, leadership is somewhat innate, that people are kind of born with certain qualities, or you can just kind of tell it. Is that right? Or do you think it's learned, like somebody can absolutely learn it who doesn't have that?
I believe it comes down to a couple of things. Again, yeah, you're right. I do believe it can be innate. I definitely, picked up some, leadership qualities from that of my mom and that of my uncles and my cousins that were very successful. But again, I think it all comes down to experience as well. Being able to manage yourself in a time that may not be pleasant to go through at all. I think being a leader is being able to say, I failed, and I'm going to pick my pieces up and I'm going to keep it moving and I'm just going to come at it better. I believe every time we learn a lesson like that, we wake up every day even more dangerous to those who are trying to, pull, these good qualities away from our communities and things, people of that nature. We have to understand that all of us have to be leaders at some point or another within our lives. And if we take the time, again, listen to God. I spend a lot of time talking to God because I don't necessarily know what I'm doing all the time. I make mistakes. I make big mistakes sometimes. I'm still young. I'm still going through the whole I'm young and dumb thing. But even in those times and where, yes, we may not even see, how much of influence that we can be drawing to the people in our communities, we still have to pick up our pieces and keep moving.
Okay. No, this has been really awesome. I really appreciate you taking some time. You've really come up with some amazing, not only insights, but really just your story is definitely going to be an inspiration for many people. I can already tell. And just the stuff that you're doing, whether they hear this or whether they work with you at your studio or the kids that you're working with, obviously you're touching lives and you're changing lives as a young leader. So I just want to commend you and say thank you for all that you're doing.
Thank you. Thank you. I do appreciate it. And again, you're a leader yourself for just being able to, do something like this to, help people understand what it means to be a leader in this day and time. I commend you more for just being able, for this, because there's not a lot of leaders like us. There's a lot of people that, again, are just lost and not necessarily able to break down their walls. And if we can help them, find ways or find these words or find these insights that can help them move on with their lives, then, you're doing just as great of a service to our communities and to mankind. So I thank you as well.
So let's get out there and let's help these young leaders. Again, we will make sure that this is this is available on GenerationYoungLeaders.com. We'll put it on Facebook. We'll put it LinkedIn. We invite other people to spread the word and for other people to listen to this. Again, it's going to be inspirational for many, and there will be other interviews to come. But Mark, being the first one, you've really showed us how to be a leader and how to look to God and how to really go out there and grab the things that are right in front of us. So thank you very much. We'll make sure that there's a text, some text pieces again. But any final words, Mark, that you have?
I would just hope that everybody's having a great 2011, and no matter how hard it gets, just remember that it's not that hard if you understand what is making these things hard in the first place.
Perfect. All right, buddy. Thank you very much.